Snake Party. Written by HapHazred. Read by Robipony. Highly immersive gameplay. The feeling was odd and unnatural, like being tickled by things that weren't there. It went from the bottom of Apple Bloom's hooves to the top of her forelock, down her spine, and down her ribs. She shuddered. Sweetbelle had said that after a while you got used to it, but Apple Bloom at that moment believed she'd never quite get used to the feeling of going from the real world into the partially imaginary. "Oof!" she exclaimed as she felt a sudden weight on her shoulders and back. A heavy steel helmet sunk onto her mane and squished it over her eyes. With a clatter, a heavy battle hammer and shield fell next to her. "Hello?" came a voice. Apple Bloom adjusted her helmet so she could see better. Her surroundings were gloomy, but not unwelcoming or scary. Torches lit up the walls, and although there were shadows everywhere, Apple Bloom didn't get the impressions anything was hiding from her. The voice that had called out to her belonged to a young stallion dressed in chainmail. Hey," Apple Bloom said, and began picking up her hammer and shield. The shield, a heavy, dirty thing, she strapped to her left side, and the hammer she hooked onto her armor for safekeeping. She assumed that was what she was supposed to do anyway. The picture of the class she had picked carried its weapons that way. "Are you in the party?" The cult nodded. "Yeah, I played with Esbel a few times," he said. "I'm Barrelin' Brave, but you can call me Barry." He tilted his head. "You look like a paladin. What type?" Apple Bloom straightened as best as she could in her heavy plate. "I picked Watcher. Sweetie said it was a good one to pick." "Watcher Paladin? Nice," Barry said. "I'm a noble fighter myself. The extra healing comes in handy." He scratched his head. I'm sorry to say this, but Sweetie couldn't make it. She said she had some stuff to do at the boutique or something." Apple Bloom sighed. "Oh. But that's okay. Me and Sweet can still show you the ropes. We even got a replacement cleric for the party." "Sweet?" "Yeah, Sweet Dreams. Hang on, she'll be arriving here soon." Apple Bloom waited, and began subconsciously tapping her hoof. True enough, not long after Barry had told her to wait, that two flashes of light lit up the cozy room. Two young fillies stepped out of the light. "Hey, Barry!" exclaimed the first. "Oh, this must be Apple... Bloom," Apple Bloom said. "Are you Sweet Dreams?" The filly nodded. "Yep, and I found us a replacement cleric. Guys, this is Samaritan. She lives down south of the Badlands, and I found her in one of the forums looking for a party." The final member of the party, a young mare roughly their own age, nodded. "Sup, call me Sam." Sweet brushed her colorful robes down. "I'm a lady sorcerer, so I'll be providing some of our heavy-hitting spells." "I'm a serpent cleric," Sam said. Yeah. I know serpent is a weird type of cleric to be, but when you guys miss that one minion, and I start taking hits, that healing poison comes in real handy." Apple Bloom whistled. "Sounds like you guys know a lot about the game," she said. "I've played a while," Barry said, smiling. "As long as Esbel, actually. We both got into it together. Then I twisted Sweet Dream's foreleg until she joined us." Sam whistled. "Sounds like I'm butting into a tight crowd." Barry and Sweet both laughed. "Don't worry, we're all kinds of friendly. We're basically beginners, since we mostly only play sporadically. I'm only level 3, and Sweet is level 4. Esbel was the toughest of us, and she got to level 6. So it sucks she's not here." Barry drew his sword. "This is basically the best thing I've got. It's adamantine." A door on the wall appeared, causing Apple Bloom to jump. Barry and Sweet both bumped hooves, grinning. "Okay guys, let's play some immersive ogres and oubliettes." The corridors and chambers beyond the strange door were somewhat similar to the room Applebloom had appeared in. The stone walls were smooth and pale gray, made out of some rock Applebloom would have assumed could be found in a southern temple or something. The torches lit up the place, and blue-green crystals glowed and added to the ethereal lighting and look of the place. The dungeon had been carefully crafted to look as eerie and magical as possible. It was awesome. "Okay," Barry said. "This is the Dungeon of Statues. It's a pretty well-frequented dungeon, and we're probs gonna be looking at gargoyles, skeleton ponies, and if we're really, really unlucky..." Barry breathed in. "A giant spider." Applebloom raised her eyebrow. "Spiders?" "Nah, just one," Sweet said, grinning. "Barry doesn't like spiders. He's scared of them." Barry shuddered. "It's not fear. It's rational caution. They're just freaky, and they have way too many legs. And they suck the juices out of flies." "We get loads of spiders in the barn," Applebloom said. "Applejack doesn't like killing them. She always either leaves them or takes them outside with a glass and a piece of paper." "These spiders you'll want to kill," Sam said, "or they'll eat you. Not a nice way to fake die." Barry held his hoof up. "Anyway, we'll only be finding monsters later on. For now, we need keys. There's a pair of locked doors that won't open until we get all 4 keys. Navigating the labyrinth of traps. If we keep our eyes peeled, we'll be safe." He scratched his head. "This is a novice dungeon, but it does have a higher than average fake dead player rate, which I find a bit confusing. Probably just noobs bumping into traps, though." "Split up?" Sweet asked. "Yeah, probably," Sam said. "We'll go faster." "I'll go with Barry," Applebloom exclaimed. She felt Berlin Brave was the pony she knew the best out of the group. Sweet hadn't talked to her much, and Sam seemed really cold. "Yeah, whatever," Sam said. "The healers should probably spread out between the two, even if it does mean me and Sweet will be a bit squishier." Barry shrugged. "Sounds good to me," he said, adjusting his sword sheath. "Onwards! Oh, and don't forget to check the statues for loot." "So, what's with this game?" Applebloom asked as she and Barry explored the corridors, keeping a wary eye out for traps. "Sweetie told me a bit about it, but not much." "Immersive ogres and oubliettes?" Barry asked. "It's pretty simple, to be fair. Some wizard found a little pocket dimension and thought to himself, 'Sweet, I can make an absolute mint out of this.' He turned it into a modular universe we can play in. It's seriously cool, just reading about how the game works and stuff." "Does it hurt in here?" Applebloom asked. "Yeah, a bit, but only when you fake die. And me, Sweet, and Esbel don't do the more hurty dungeons." He shrugged. "Some ponies go for that sort of thing, but we mostly just like doing this for fun." Applebloom passed a marble statue of a pony in armor. "Wow, I guess this is why it's called the Dungeon of Statues." "Yeah, don't forget to keep an eye on those. Sometimes the game leaves a necklace on them or something." "Can we keep items in the game?" "If you complete the dungeon, you get to store the items you got. Yeah. If you die or give up, you get nothing." "Huh." "It's also possible to take things from the game out into the real world too," Barry said. "It's a weird glitch, and I don't know how to make it work, but for real, some players make a living out of this." "Wow." "Yeah, it takes the idea of item farming to a whole new level." The pair entered a large room. Statues adorned the walls and stood guard near doors and chests. Barry held his hoof up. "Wait a sec," he said. "You don't want to get hit by a trap, and some of these might be gargoyles." "I thought you said we wouldn't be fighting." "You never know. The dungeon is randomly generated each time you enter, so it pays to be careful. Apple Bloom examined the statues of the ponies. She saw one wearing an amulet and took it off. "Hey, I found something!" "What is it?" Barry asked, as he tapped some of the statues with his sword. "Any good?" "Don't know. It's an amulet." "Sweet. Keep a hold of that. It might be enchanted. We'll get Sweet or Sam to check it out later. Their classes come with more lore." "Yeah. By the way, how do I, do things?" "Like abilities?" Barry asked, prodding a door. To be fair, paladins don't have that many. Just a healing ability and some clerical powers. "Yeah, but I don't know how to use them," Applebloom said as she trotted over to Barry. "It'll come in handy, I reckon." The noble fighter was trying to open the door. It was locked tight. "You said you were a Watcher Paladin, right?" "Yeah." "Great. Looks like we get a demonstration," he said, beaming. When you select your class, you're basically selecting two things: a base class and a type. My base class is Fighter. I, fight things. That bit is easy. The cool part, in my opinion, is the type. My type is Noble, like I mentioned earlier. It comes with a few quirks that affect what I can do. "Uh-huh," Applebloom muttered. "Like what?" "It affects what kind of abilities I can use, as well as strengths, weaknesses, and other changes to my base class. For example, I have a powerful healing spell I can use," Barry said. "Noble fighters are pretty overpowered because they can tank for so much longer than other classes. That said, I also get a weakness to fire, which sucks." "Huh." Barry pointed at Applebloom. Watcher, on the other hand, has a different ability. You can sort of sense things, for starters. He tapped the locked door. You can also unlock things. Applebloom looked at the door. "Okay," she said. "How do I do that?" "Kinda like unicorn magic, which is why it's a bit tricky to grasp for earth ponies like us," Barry said. "Basically, you need to think the spell. In this case, unlock door. If you know the spell, it'll work. If not, you'll just get a little backlash. Like a tickle or a flick." Applebloom did as Barry said, then felt a sudden pain on her forehead. She flinched, her eyes closing. "Ow!" "Oh yeah," Barry said. "You also have to be touching the door. Watcher needs to touch the thing they're opening for it to work." Applebloom sighed. "Great," she muttered, and put her hoof on the door. She closed her eyes and thought as hard as she could. There was a click. "There you go," Barry exclaimed. Learning the spells are apparently the hardest bit for unicorns, but casting the spell, easy peasy. He pushed the door open. "Onwards!" Applebloom grinned to herself. She really rather liked being able to cast spells. After a half hour of searching, Barry and Applebloom found 2 keys. Each was thick and heavy, and adorned with various symbols. Barry explained that the symbols were part of the game language, but you didn't need to learn it to enjoy the game. It was perfectly optional. For every chest unlocked and trap avoided, both Barry and Applebloom acquired experience. They didn't encounter any monsters, and much to Barry's relief, no spiders. Although Barry did say that winning a fight would boost their experience considerably. Apparently you get better abilities when you gained experience, which made sense to Applebloom.
"Hey guys,"
came a voice. Both Barry and Applebloom turned around. Sam trotted down the corridor towards them. Sweet was nowhere to be seen. "Hey Sam," Barry said. "Where'd Sweet go?" Sam rubbed her forehead.
"She ran headfirst into a trap,"
Sam said.
I don't have a resurrect spell, so she sort of, booted out of the game."
Barry widened his eyes. For real? We haven't even fought a monster yet.
To be fair, we did. We got a gargoyle.
Sam said.
Sweet blasted it with a fireball.
Barry sighed. Well, at least she'll have gotten some experience. I thought stuff didn't carry over when you died, Applebloom asked.
Experience does,
Sam said.
Prevents players from making zero progress. It got patched in.
She brightened.
Good news, though. I got 2 keys.
Barry nodded. I got the other 2. That's 4. We're good to go. What do we need the keys for? Can't I just use my ability? Not these ones, I'm afraid, Barry said with a cheeky grin. That's why they have 2 locks. You can't do both at once. Bad news is the doors are guarded by monsters, and we don't have our fireball spammer anymore. Sam licked her lips.
Yeah, we should avoid taking detours for loot and go straight for the ending.
Barry sighed. Yeah, guess so. He turned to Applebloom. Sorry this has proven to be a bit of a bum session. Applebloom shrugged. That's okay. It's still fun. The group began to move down the serpentine corridors. Barry looked much more serious now. His eyes glanced left and right, scanning for enemies. Okay, well, better get our weapons out, he said, drawing his sword. We'll need to react quickly if a gargoyle appears. Applebloom unhooked her hammer and held it in her hoof. She was used to carrying heavy farm equipment, so one measly hammer wasn't that bad. She wondered if real-life abilities blend through into the game. That'd make sense, after all. She still felt like she was Applebloom. She looked at Sam. The young mare was quite pretty now that Applebloom took a closer look. She was athletic, and sort of smooth, Applebloom thought. Her eyes were also stunning. They were bright yellow, and seemed to glow in the dark. Applebloom had seen ponies with weird eyes before. Night ponies had funny eyes, as did some of the birdier Pegasi. Still, Sam's eyes were lovely to look at. Barry, by comparison, looked rather plain and straightforward, but still managed to exude an aura of strength and determination that in many ways made him more appealing to be around.
You sure like looking at your teammates, huh?
Sam whispered, her voice barely more than a hiss. Applebloom stammered, staring ahead.
Hey, it's all chill,
Sam said.
Just couldn't help but notice you were staring a fair bit at Brave over there.
I was staring at you too, Applebloom countered. She groaned inwardly. With the benefit of hindsight, it was perhaps not the smoothest of comebacks.
Hey, that's cool too,
Sam said.
We're all pals here.
She widened her eyes.
Heads up, guys. I see something.
Barry spun around. What? He asked. I can't see anything.
Quiet then. Just listen.
The group went silent. Applebloom could hear the sound of rock scraping on rock. She breathed in. That'll be a Garg, Barry said. Let's hurry. The more doors we open before we get swarmed, the better. The group began to rush forwards. Barry and Applebloom took point, with Sam keeping an eye on the rear. A large double door came into view. 2 heavy locks adorned it. Bingo, Barry said. Hey, Bloom, watch my back while I open this door. Sam, the keys. Sam tossed Barry her 2 keys. Applebloom scanned behind them for any sign of movement. The statues that surrounded them stared at her eerily. Some of them looked different. The stone they were made out of was darker and rougher, and the statues were posed differently. Many of them were trying to cover their eyes. Applebloom shuddered. Creepy. The scraping of the gargoyles got louder and louder and louder. Applebloom swung her hammer to test the weight. The stone gargoyle, a great big ugly twisted thing, came into view. Applebloom found herself transfixed by its teeth.
Hey, Applebloom,
Sam began.
Great snakes!
Applebloom exclaimed. These things are huge! What do we do if we get swarmed?
Hey,
Sam snapped.
you're a paladin. Smite first, ask questions later.
Applebloom felt the shadow of the gargoyle loom over her. She shuddered. What would her sister do?
Remember, sis, if you can't talk your way out or run away, one thing you must absolutely get right is that if you're gonna hit it with something real heavy.
Applebloom's hammer was very heavy. The word smite resonated in her brain. Something about the word felt very alluring. Sam widened her bright yellow eyes as Applebloom lifted her hammer high above her head. Pieces of gargoyle flew like sparks from a firework. Applebloom roared. Barry looked back, the doors opening. He grinned. Hey, looks like you're getting to the spirit of things. Getting into the spirit of things? Yes, that was it. Applebloom hadn't understood what it meant to be a paladin until that very moment. Lawful good did not, under any circumstances, mean lawful nice. She grinned. She was going to be lawfully good all over those gargoyles. She was going to do some justice. Smite! She shouted and charged. Barry's face fell. Hey, Bloom? The door is open. More gargoyles began to explode under the weight of Applebloom's hammer. Sam stared.
Barry, I think I'm in love.
Barry rolled his eyes. Well, at least this gives us time to plan in a little, he said, as he peered through the double doors. A piece of gargoyle bounced off his helmet. There'll be more monsters through here, too. This is awesome! Applebloom shouted, and charged through the doors, swinging her hammer left and right. I'm gonna smite him! Sam beamed.
Why is everything always so wonderful?
A half-dozen dead gargoyles later, Applebloom had begun to calm down somewhat. Panting and sweating, Applebloom stared into Barry's eyes as he held both his hooves on her shoulders. Hey, you in there? Yeah. You kinda went berserk a bit there, Barry said. It's okay. Happens to first-timers. Some of them get real scared. Others, go nuts. I'm better now, Applebloom muttered in between pants. Barry looked unconvinced. How many fingers am I holding up? We don't have fingers. You're probably fine, Barry said and straightened. Good news is during your episode, you gained a level. I did? Yep, you should be able to heal twice per rest now, among other things. You'll want to consult the guide later for more info. The room they were in was like most of the rooms they had explored, filled with statues. Again, many of them were the rougher, more lifelike ones. Barry was a bit off-put by them. Applebloom got to her hooves.
More monsters will be coming soon,
Sam said.
Applebloom, unless you want to be the best pony ever again, you should get the door. Me and Barry will hold them off whilst you fiddle with those dumb double locks.
Applebloom nodded. She felt exhausted after her recent episode. Her hammer felt twice as heavy, and her breath came in pants. She took Barry's remaining 2 keys. The door should be a ways ahead, Barry said. Off you go, and stay safe. Applebloom nodded and trotted away. She couldn't help but feel a little proud. A whole level! She had no idea if that was good for a first-timer, but regardless, it was still her first level, and she liked it. That made her a level 2 Watcher Paladin. Immersive ogres and oubliettes was so much fun. It was way better than the regular kind Sweetie had once tried to get them to play. Scootaloo had never looked quite so unimpressed with her friend. Scootaloo would love this, though. The large double doors rose up before her. This door looked even more impressive than the last, and was seemingly made out of marble, the same material as the non-creepy statues. "Oh crud, here they come!" Barry shouted. "Have at you, fiends!" Applebloom inserted the first key into one of the two locks. It didn't budge. She spat and pulled it out, moving it to the next. This time it worked. She looked back. Sam and Barry were getting swarmed by a mix of skeleton ponies and gargoyles. Applebloom inserted the next key and turned it. The door became unlocked with a clunk. In a bout of initiative, she closed her eyes and tried sensing what was beyond the door. Watchers were supposed to be able to do that, she remembered. After a second, she decided she couldn't sense anything, either because she was doing it wrong or because there really wasn't anything there. Either way, she was out of time. She pushed the door open. "Come on, guys," she shouted. "Door's open!" Sam darted towards her, weaving in between the skeleton ponies. Barry, on the other hoof, didn't move. "Beryllium!" Applebloom shouted. Then she saw why Barry hadn't moved. Not far away was a huge, hairy spider. It was as tall as Applebloom herself and crawled along the walls. Its mandibles were waggling about like tentacles of an octopus. Its 8 beady eyes were staring at nothing in particular. Barry was fixated on it, using his sword to block attacks through instinct alone, as if sleepwalking. "Barry, come on!" Applebloom shouted. Barry's eyes flashed. He roared and charged the spider. "I will be scared no longer!" he screamed. "Onwards!" Applebloom felt Sam's hoof on her shoulder.
Come on, we need to go.
"But Barry..."
He's gone ballistic. It's awesome, but we need to survive to win. Let's split,"
Sam insisted, and pulled Applebloom through the door, and then closed the door behind them. Barry, Applebloom assumed, went to join Sweet Dreams in a blaze of glory. The other side of the door was brighter and more inviting. Actual sunlight poured in from above, illuminating chests and treasure. Applebloom didn't feel very happy to see it, though. She had wanted the whole party to have made it. Even though it was only fake, it felt just real enough to sting. She felt a hoof on her side.
"You all right, Applebloom?"
"I guess," Applebloom said. "I just wanted all of us to win." Sam's large, yellow eyes glistened.
"You're sweet,"
she said.
"but what's done is done."
Applebloom looked down at Sam's hoof. "I guess. You're pretty nice too," she said. Sam grinned, her sharp teeth glinting in the sunlight.
"Thanks."
She adjusted her mane, which seemed to move and shift.
"But you're probably thanking me a bit too early."
Applebloom tilted her head. "What do ya mean?" she began, before her words began to falter. Sam grinned, her teeth seemingly becoming whiter and sharper.
"Serpent type, remember?"
she said.
"Poison comes in real handy when you need some pony to stop living for a bit. Of course, it's touch-based, but most party members tend to let me get close enough for that."
Applebloom felt her blood run cold. She couldn't speak, or scream, or lift a hoof to defend herself. Instead, she crumpled on the floor. Sam began to trot over to the treasure in a business-like fashion.
"Have you ever been down south? There are some weird types of ponies down south, past the Badlands,"
Sam explained, as she rummaged through the chests, pulling out various gold coins and necklaces.
"There's this one type of pony that when you look at them, really look at them, and they look back, you turn to stone. Kinda like a cockatrice. But we're not some dumb bird lizard.
Sam clicked her tongue and sighed.
Whoops, let that one slip.
She got up and turned towards Apple Bloom, who could do nothing but stare at Sam. She couldn't even blink. The poison made her insides feel like acid.
Sorry, I meant for that to be a way grander dramatic reveal. It was gonna be awesome. I was gonna whip my mane, and the snakes were gonna happen, and the lighting was gonna be super dramatic and stuff. I really mucked it up. It's basically ruined, and I feel like a total idiot. I swear, I'm usually way better at this.
Apple Bloom did not say anything, because she was too busy coughing on the ground.
Okay then. Surprise! Snake pony!
Sam exclaimed. Apple Bloom writhed as whatever natural healing factor in the alternate universe gave her began to kick in. Sam circled Apple Bloom.
Anyway, this isn't personal. Being what I am, I can't get a real job and function in normal society, can I?
She chuckled.
I can't even chat to my mom without turning her to granite. Boy, was that awkward. Pro tip, always wear sunglasses. In fact, this is the only time I can really talk to ponies. That way, if they catch a glimpse of what's ever under the mane, well, at least it's only fake death, right?
She strode up to Apple Bloom and began to relieve her of her hammer, shield, and armor. She plucked the amulet Apple Bloom had found earlier from her saddlebag.
Wow, an amulet of dexterity. This'll sell well.
She grinned.
Did you know that if you use a spell to eliminate fate death on yourself, you can take your inventory over to the real world? Glitches are fun, huh? Anyway, thanks. I could eat something other than rats tonight.
She packed all the loot, including Apple Bloom's equipment, into her bag.
So the thing is,
Sam went on,
you can't actually win the game until all surviving players bang that button over there. And I reckon that once the poison wears off, you're not going to come along quietly, are you?
Sam leaned in closer to Apple Bloom.
You'll just be one more statue in this place. I bet no pony will even notice one extra young filly trying to cover her eyes.
Sam tilted her head.
Oh, yeah. You're not my first. This is kind of where I farm for loot, you know. My comfort zone, I guess.
Apple Bloom could feel her hooves again. She tried to bring one up to escape, but it wasn't fast enough. Sam's mane came undone.
I thought we were friends. Don't be like that. Like I said, this isn't personal.
Sam said with a wink.
A snake girl's gotta eat, and if I didn't fleece noobs like you, I'd be starving on an island surrounded by dead, empty statues of ponies who tried to cut off my mom's head because some noble said it would be cool.
She patted Apple Bloom's cheek.
We'll probably never see each other again,
Sam said, a sad little smile playing her lips.
So I just wanted to say, well, you deserve to win. Too bad life is filled with small tragedies, like me.
As Sam's mane fell down, countless snakes writhed on Sam's head like a nest of worms. Apple Bloom could feel her rear legs beginning to freeze up. At least the feeling of cold stone replaced the pain. Sam winked.
I hope you enjoyed this last stare, Apple Bloom. I know I will.
Apple Bloom's eyes opened as she fell from her chair in her room, screaming loudly. She breathed heavily, lying on her back for a moment. She heard hoofsteps pound up the stairs. Applejack burst into her room. Apple Bloom? Applejack asked panically. What's wrong? Apple Bloom sighed and rested her head on the floor. I'm fine. I was just playing a game. Applejack breathed out, relieved. Phew, don't go scaring me like that, she said. What happened?
Well, it was going mostly fine. Then a snake pony turned out to be one of my friends, left my other friend to fake die, stole all my loot, flirted with me, then killed me by turning me into a statue. She frowned. Oh, and Sweetie had to do stuff at the Carousel Boutique. Sounds like a heck of a day. It's a weird game. Applejack frowned. That immersive ogres and oubliettes nonsense? Applebloom nodded. She had heard Applejack spiel before. Yep, that immersive ogres and oubliettes nonsense. Applejack shook her head. You're as bad as Twi's big brother. He got ambushed by a vampire pony in there once. That game ain't safe, you know. It's a magnet for weird ponies. Applejack moved back to the door. Well, be more careful next time. Applebloom got to her hooves and sat down at her desk again. It was still covered in the guides and books required to play immersive ogres and oubliettes. She couldn't help but remember Samaritan's piercing yellow eyes. Not many ponies could claim to have been turned to stone by Gorgony and survived. Or, well, technically she hadn't. Thank heavens for fake death. Yeah, she said. I guess so. Applejack left the room, leaving Applebloom on her own. Next time, I think I'll insist on having Sweetie Belle as our cleric.